Hello, everyone, and welcome to the new episode of Entrepreneurship Lab. This is your host, Nevena Bajalac, welcoming you once again to the podcast where we help you grow and scale your business. And today with us, we have a female entrepreneur. She's a serial entrepreneur, a real inspiration to many women around the world, coming to us all the way from Atlanta, Georgia. And her name is Emily Condle, and Emily is a founder of Sage HeadSpa. I hope I pronounced that well. It's a luxury Japanese head spa across the states, and she's a mother as well. And she's going to share with us how she builds successful business, how she navigates family life as well. So you're going to definitely get a lot of value from this episode. So Emily, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, so it's pleasure is all mine. I'm very inspired by your story, everything you're doing. But would you give us a little bit of background, how you started as entrepreneur? Did you always had entrepreneurial spirit, or I don't know, maybe life pushed you towards that path? So how did it started for you?
Yeah, so I started in aesthetics about almost 15 years ago, and I grew up around female business owners. My grandma owned a flower shop. My aunt owned a clothing store. So I feel like I always had that like entrepreneurial like spirit in me. But, in aesthetics, I worked primarily in plastic surgery. And like, obviously, I went to aesthetic school not to be a plastic surgeon. So opening like my own practice, doing medical aesthetics always seemed very intimidating and a lot of competition. During COVID, I started something completely unrelated to aesthetics, actually. I started a picnic company, like a luxury picnic company that did backdrops and balloons. And I learned a lot from that. And it did very well. I still have the business today. It's almost gosh, I think like 6.5 years old. But what I realized with that is, I couldn't really like replicate me or my husband. So every party that we booked and every event that we booked, it was us doing it, and it was really hard to replicate and scale. So with that being said, it really wasn't my passion. Aesthetics has always been my passion. So I got back into aesthetics and just started working part-time, and I realized that most of the people in the office were super unhappy, overworked, underpaid, working 8 to 5, sitting in traffic. And I'm like, there has to be a better way. So I started seeing the head spa treatment trending, and I'm like, this is something that I can do. It doesn't require a medical director. It's a holistic approach. It's super relaxing. I feel like so many people are just so stressed out all the time, especially in the United States. It's just, everyone's ripping and running and constantly going and stressed out, whether it's like financially or, work related. So I'm like, where can we create a space where people can just unwind for an hour or an hour and a half? So the concept just kind of, I honestly thought of it. And about 4 weeks later, we started, building out the space. And 6 weeks later, we were open, and people just loved it. So I was like, how do we take this to other markets? And I felt like it was something that we could replicate. Our staff in Alpharetta is the same staff that we started with on day one, and we've been open for almost 2 years. I created a really good work schedule. Most of our staff works either 9 to 3 or 3 to 9, so they're avoiding that traffic. They're able to have flexibility in their schedules and things like that.
I love that. And I love how you took like solving the problem of employees and making employees happy because it's true. So many people are overworked and we're frustrated in corporate world. But then also you were solving that in another way by giving the spa. So tell us more about how is the head spa, like how is it different than regular spa? Like what is something that you position yourself to differentiate in the market? Because also this wellness market and there is a lot of competition like you said as well. So what is something that you did or you spot it's not available in the market, and how did you differentiate it yourself?
I think the biggest differentiator between us and other head spas is that we hire all licensed estheticians or cosmetologists. So they all have gone to school, they have training, they have, license within the state that they're in. We also, myself, I'm a licensed esthetician with almost 15 years of experience. And Desiree, my business partner, is a master cosmetologist. So essentially what we did was we studied the techniques and we basically implemented, I would say, our skill sets into those techniques. And I think that's what really sets us apart is the licensing, and then also the products that we use. I think me personally, I have two kids. I have one on the way, and I've become very conscious and aware of things that I put on and in our bodies, down to like laundry detergent, food that we consume. The products that we use, it's very important to me that they're clean products. And a lot of spas, it's a way to cut corners to use cheaper product that's not as clean. So our products are paraben free, sulfate free. Davines, the hair care we use is from Italy. It's B Corp certified. So it's really hard to get that certification. So like I said, there we could definitely use cheaper product that smells great and might temporarily make your skin feel good, but I just don't believe in that approach. I would rather be putting the best things on my clients. And, I think that's the second thing that really sets us apart is number one, the license providers. Number two, the products that we put on people is just to me next level.
Yeah, and I love that. I think it's very important to believe in what you do and being aligned. And then you have also the customers that value that. Of course, there is customer for everything. Some customers want cheap, but then they pay the well. I believe in that, especially now with health and wellness, we should, be very conscious what we are doing. And eventually, if you really give that amazing service and you have amazing products, people will come back and they will refer you. And you cannot go, I believe, in business long term if you don't have good service or good product. It's just maybe can be a buzz and very good marketing, but if the product is not good, you can have the best people, celebrities
Right,
market it. If product is actually not good, it will not survive in the market. So,
right,
Emily,
exactly.
I wanted to ask you when you started, a lot of listeners are startups and let's say they're opening their business, whatever it is. In your case, it was a head spa. So, what were some first things you did to market and get some customers and clients? Did you had organic approach? Did you invested in some paid ads? Because this is a very common question that a lot of people starting either first time business or for you was not the first time. But what were some things you did to start getting customers? Let's say right away.
Especially, I think in our industry, the power of social media. So we did start fairly organic. We started with Instagram Reels. Our room wasn't even built out, but we had the bed plumbed. And I was in there filming content. We did have a social media girl come in as well. And we basically put our first reel up almost immediately. So we were able to kind of build that traction and hype. We were just doing a localized Instagram boost at first. I will say that I did make a mistake as a business owner. I put all my eggs in one basket with just social media. So for about the first 6 to 9 months, all I focused on heavily was our Instagram because it was what was working. So, as a business owner, I'm like, why would I diversify the way I'm marketing my business if I'm making so much money off of this avenue? So, I didn't focus on TikTok, I didn't focus on Facebook, and I didn't focus on Google. Unfortunately, our Instagram was hacked June of last year. And so it completely wiped us off the map for about 6 to 8 weeks. It took me to get the Instagram back. And I realized and was kicking myself because I had not focused on those other avenues that I just named. So I definitely think, finding what works for you. And for us, it was the Instagram, but don't neglect the other avenues. Even if you're building them organically and not putting money behind those. Like, for example, to this day, I still don't put money behind TikTok, but it's something that I've built to 13,000 followers organically, and it's there if I need it. Um, so that's something that I would recommend and something I would definitely like to share with other business owners. You might think that you hit the jackpot with one stream of marketing, but don't put all your eggs in one basket. Learn from my mistakes.
Love that, and it's very valuable to share that. I think yes, I think sometimes it's too overwhelming. And of course, social media takes time. And for different business owners, different social media works differently. But I think it takes 5 minutes. If you're making the same post, reel, photo, whatever, you can post it across your Facebook page. For me, also, I use LinkedIn a lot in professional network. So it takes few minutes and you can build, maybe you will not put, like you said, the same energy in all, but at least you will be present and people will be able to find you on other avenues as well if something happened to the one. So I think, yes, we can maybe learn from this example and just take a few minutes and you can do absolutely same social media content across few different platforms in a few minutes, and you save yourself time, and you're also building, maybe slowly, organically, but you are building also presence in another places.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, what are some challenges that you were facing when you decided to open the business? And I like actually that you shared in your previous business it was very hard to multiply yourself, because I do believe a lot of people who say, "Oh, I have a business," they're just self-employed. And there was the name of my book, one of the books I published was "You Don't Have a Business," because when I spoke with my mentor when I was just working like as for myself as a coach consultant, I was like, this is actually not a business, like, because it's not running without me in it. And this is such a great lesson. So, how did you took maybe that lesson, and what was the challenge for you, maybe as a leader and as a founder? A lot of founders, I think we sometimes struggle to delegate. We believe we will do everything best ourselves. How was it for you to, learn from that previous business and then grow in this one?
I think that it's still hard for me to delegate. So I don't want to say that I've mastered that. I'm being completely honest. But I definitely reached a point of burnout with my picnic balloon backdrop business, because that is something that is physical labor. And being in the treatment room is still physical labor. So for me, just hiring the right staff, and I don't always get it right. But we have created a process to really vet our staff. And between myself and our director of operations, we have multiple interviews that we do to make sure that we bring in the right fit. If we hire 10 people, we'll get one but we're kind of able to identify that now, being almost 2 years into the business. At first we did not. And then sometimes you do get, we had a staff member that unfortunately we caught stealing, but we literally caught it within one day. And, we handled it accordingly. And, so you're going to run into those problems, and you just need to figure out how to not let those problems knock you on your butt to the point where you can't stand back up. So, I wouldn't say we've mastered anything. I think that I've mastered how I handle things and how I don't let certain things knock me down to the point where it takes me a while to get back up. I've always gotten back up, but now I bounce back quicker. I'm like, okay, like, she's done. Let's move on. Let's clear a schedule. So we've really grown, I think, as a business on the back end by really figuring out how to manage and handle those things. And at first, it seemed like the end of the world, but now it's just what you deal with every day in business. And, I have to have constant pep talks with myself. Would I rather be dealing with like these problems, or would I rather be working for somebody else, trying to climb the corporate ladder, or, when you work for plastic surgeons, there's really no growth. There's no, I mean, you might get a dollar raise a year, but so I constantly have to have those pep talks with myself. But I think it's really, accepting that you're not going to know everything, and you're not it's not always going to be smooth, but it's how you bounce back and how you
Yeah.
keep going.
You said I think those periods become shorter and shorter, how you bouncing back because you experience it, you see it's not end
Yes.
of the world, you don't get so emotionally involved, especially with the staff and people, so you just get back faster. And how was it now I like that you mentioned,
Yes.
working for someone else. How is entrepreneurship actually supporting you? Because that's what I love about entrepreneurship. It's freedom. It's not that you work less, you actually work more when you're building something, but I do
Yes.
feel, as a mother for you now, soon mother of three children, how do you feel entrepreneurship is actually supporting you in this way where you have some kind of freedom and flexibility that we don't have when we work for someone else?
I always, like I said, I try to have self talks with myself, because sometimes, when things get hard, I'm like, it would be so much easier just to clock in and clock out somewhere. But then, I get a call from my daughter's school. We think Reagan has an ear infection. I don't have to ask permission to leave. I get up and I go and I take her to the doctors. And, me being pregnant, the other day, I was getting leg cramps, and my whole body was just like, third trimester of pregnancy pains. And I, was able to just work from my couch. And I was so grateful that I didn't have to go into an office. I remember my first pregnancy with my almost 8-year old now, sitting at my desk, and I would just be in excruciating pain. And even my second pregnancy, I worked part time in plastic surgery. And I just remember my back, my hips, my this, my that. And so, when things get hard and rough, and I'm like, oh, it would be so much easier just to take a paycheck from somebody else and put in, 65 to 70% effort. I have to remind myself that I can drive my kids to school. I could pick my kids up from school. If they're sick, I could be there. I never have to miss an activity. So I'm really grateful for that. And that's something that I hope never changes for me or for them.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and that's my point as well, and inspiration as well. So I love to ask this one question to all my guests. If there is one thing you wish you knew earlier in building your business that maybe will, I don't know, save you time, save you money, help you build earlier, what is something that you wish somebody told you much earlier that you learned yourself?
Oh, this is a hard question for me to answer. I think that everybody has a different journey in business. And like I said, I think it really depends on your business. But, you know, I don't know that I would have like taken, or taken somebody's advice, but even when it gets hard, just to keep going. And then I always tell people to have your why. And if you have a really strong why you're doing what you're doing, um, having that, you can always refer back to it when things get hard. So I think before you start your journey, or you're at the beginning of your journey, identify your why. My why is like obviously my kids, but then also too, I actually have three whys: my kids, and then my staff. It's very important to me. I mean, I look at Sarah Blakely and how when she sold Spanx, she gave each staff member $10,000 and a ticket to anywhere in the world. And I'm like, that is like my dream, to take care of the people who take care of my business every single day and show up and put in the work. And then three, taking care of the client. There's nothing more rewarding to me. And when I worked in the treatment room when we first opened, people would literally fall asleep within 15 minutes and they would wake up at the end and they would say, "That's the most relaxed I've been in 3 years. This is the most relaxed I've been in, this is the best my hair has felt." So I just always go back to those three whys. And I think if you have those, um, just circle back to those. But I don't think that there's anything specifically that somebody could have told me that would have
Yeah.
really changed or helped my mentality. I just think you
Yeah.
have to have really strong whys.
Yeah, I love that. I love that really. So, as you're wrapping up the episode, what would be your final advice to anyone building a business or wanting to scale and grow? Maybe something that you think it's very important and we didn't mention so far.
Just keep going. you know don't Nothing is the end of the world. I think that I've seen a lot of people, I've had a lot of friends start businesses and they quit so soon. And I really do think that keeping skin in the game and just trucking through the madness is what you need to do. I'm not saying, quit your full-time job and dive into a business 100%. If you have to keep, your full-time job and start working on something part-time, do that. That's what I did with my first business. I, worked both and it was really, really hard. But it was something that was very important to me to have my own. And I think that people start and quit too soon. And I think you just kind of have to have those self talks with yourself, whether you're listening to a motivational podcast or you're reading something motivational. Mindset is everything. And just really stay headstrong and circle back to your whys, write them down, have sticky notes, and just remember why you're doing it and give up.
Yes, thank you so much, Emily. This was like really, really helpful, insightful, and very real. I love interviewing people who are building business, who are very real about all the struggles, all the real challenges. So thank you for sharing your story with us.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I hope that this helps other people. Like I said, I think, from the outside looking in, it might look like people or business owners have it all figured out and they're very successful. But I do think having these like real conversations is, really important. We've scaled to
Yeah.
10 locations, but we still have our problems day to day and our
Yes.
struggles, and it's normal, and just stay strong.
Thank you. And everyone, make sure to follow the Sage, Emily's spa. They're growing. Follow her journey. It's very inspiring. Yes, support them. If you're new as, go and get the best relaxation treatment ever. And thank you for listening. Thank you for being here supporting the podcast as well. Make sure to subscribe, download the episode, and like I always say, share with at least one person that's gonna find this conversation helpful. Thank you once again for listening, and I see you in the next episode.